Hey guys, DeMarco here, General Manager DeMarcoSports.com, and this is going to be your NFL Week 1 complimentary pick report. Okay, a lot of stuff to discuss here. I've got 4 complimentary plays, including your Sunday night game between the Rams and the Lions coming your way. But what do I tell you? At the beginning of every single season, no matter the sport, it's the only time we have the advantage over the odds makers because even after 3 meaningless, worthless preseason games, when most teams, because the coaches don't want to risk injuries to their high priced starters, rest them, they don't have any clue what to expect in week number 1. Now, I will tell you that my experience is that generally in week number 1, favorites rule the roost. Wasn't necessarily the case last year, but generally speaking, I think favorites are the way to go in week number 1 because the lines are generally soft. However, I'm also a subscriber to The Athletic. I don't know if you guys read it. And in their latest week 1 NFL preview picks by a guy who, FYI, is less than one game, one unit over 500 last year with his picks, and even worse in college football. Why these guys at these various publications insist on having writers who have no clue to how to be the handicappers and aren't handicappers release picks every single week is beyond me. When guys like me are handicappers and we do this for a living and we make money for ourselves and for customers, clueless, absolutely clueless. Write the New York Times, complain to them. But one of the guys in the comments section said, "Oh, I've been betting for 50 years, and underdogs are always the way to go in week number 1. I've only lost like 6 or 8 weeks ever in week number 1 in those 50 years I've been betting." Well, I'm here to tell you both things are true because generally we're not looking at a 14-0 sweep in week number 1 with the favorites. We're looking at probably somewhere where the favorites will probably have a 4-game advantage. You can always find a barking dog. I'm just saying, generally, favorites are the way to go. In weeks number 2 or 3, I'm going to tell you right now, the dogs generally always come back and bite you in the ass because the odds makers immediately adjust. The other thing that I find in the opening week of play is because so many of these teams rest the starters and instead rely on joint practices to get their guys reps. And let's face it, I really should cue up the Allen Iverson clip about practice. Practice. You're talking about, you know what I mean. But practice, you don't simulate real game conditions. I don't even care if it is joint practice. I've been to enough of them. And the fact is, what happens is offenses generally struggle coming out of the gate. Look at week 1 last year, average 41 points per game. You know that ain't the NFL that you're used to seeing as the season progresses. That's what happens when you sit the regulars during the preseason, especially with the quarterbacks. They just simply don't have their rhythm generally in week number 1. Now, the other thing that I always like to tell you about the NFL, it's my cute little system that I stumbled across about 14 years ago, where if you can simply pick the straight up winners of games, through about the first 12 weeks of the regular season. And it's anywhere between 10 and 13 weeks, but I go on an average about 12 weeks. If you can simply pick the straight up winners, you will find the straight up winners will cover the games at somewhere between an 85 to 92% clip. And you're going, oh my God, Al, what the hell do I need you for? What the hell do I need a handicapper for? If it was easy, that easy to simply pick the straight up winners, Jesus Christ, guys, I wouldn't be doing this and I'd be a multi-millionaire, maybe a billionaire. But it just ain't that easy sometimes. But generally speaking, and I'll keep track as the season progresses. And you know, I've been doing this for years, telling you about this. And it's amazing how the streak just keeps building. Pick the straight up winners and you will find they will cover in that 10 to 13 week margin. Now, 2 years ago, oh my God, it carried almost the entire way right to the playoffs. But we'll see what happens. Okay, let's start with the complimentary plays. And of course, I always am going to give you what I feel is the best bet on the board. And for those of you that are newcomers, the best bet is the play that I considered the second best play among all the games I handicapped on the card. There's the best play I released on the site, and this is the best of the worst. Okay? The play that, for one reason or another, among all the plays that I decided to eliminate and opted to put all these plays here on the video report, but this is the one that came closest to being my best bet on today's card. And that is going to be your Sunday night game between the Lions and the Rams. I think the best thing the Lions did this season, in the offseason, I should say, is they retained their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. I cannot emphasize how important that was for this team and their offense. You've got a Rams team that, of course, met Detroit in the playoffs last year, the NFC divisional round. Now, the Rams did cover that game as a 3.5 point favorite, underdog in a 24-23 loss. But you've got a Lions team that's 9-4-2 as a home chalk since 2022. You've got a Rams team that, of course, suffered a defensive loss when future Hall of Famer Aaron Donald finally decided to hang up his cleats. Was Aaron Donald the same player that he had been in past years a season ago? No. But still, 53 tackles, 16 for loss, and 8 sacks. This is going to be a Rams defense that not only lost Donald, but is going to have 5 projected new starters. The offensive line for the Rams, remember, Alaric Jackson, their starting left tackle, 2-game suspension to start the season. They also have another key injury to one of their starting guards on the left side, too. So you may have some issues there. Now, can the Rams move the ball with Matthew Stafford, with Kyren Williams, who ran for nearly 1,200 yards last year and 12 touchdowns and also called in 32 catches? And, of course, they've got Puka Nacua, who, oh my God, in that playoff game last year, he was just simply a fantastic 9 catches, 181 yards, and Cooper Kupp. But remember, Kupp only had 5 catches for like 27 yards in that playoff game last year. But I still believe the Lions are the more balanced offensive team. And at this stage, I think that they are the better defensive team. The one thing that I don't like about the Lions, of course, is the fact that their head coach, he loves to gamble, and sometimes those gambles do cost you when you're betting on them. But in this particular spot, I do like the Lions. Naturally, with the line sitting at 3.5, anywhere between 3 and 4.5, you know what I'm going to say. I'm always buying down the half point because it just is absolutely foolish if you don't. But I'm preaching to the choir because you either believe in that philosophy or you don't. End of story. Let me just remind you, over at the site, DeMarcosports.com, yes, it's me. Second biggest discount of the entire season is available today. You can save 27% off your total purchase price. I do this at the beginning of the NFL season when all you regulars come back to reward you for your patronage, for your loyalty over the years. About 85% of our customers are returning customers year after year, which tells you we ain't doing too bad. Those of you that are returning, you notice I have cleaned house with getting rid of about 7, 8 handicappers and bringing in new guys. Hockey bettors, by the way, I cleaned house for all of them. You're going to have 4 new hockey guys when that season starts, thank God. But listen, it's 27% off your total purchase price. That's good for picks and or packages for any of the handicappers. The only stipulation is you've got to put everything in your shopping cart at one time to maximize your discount. If you ever have any questions, you can always contact customer service. Quickly, guys always ask me, well, who did best in football last year? Easy, Rick Torino, a guy who I've known. Well, Jesus, he was in my wedding. I've known him for, oh Jesus, I can't even for years and years. We used to work as writers together. I mean, you used to see me do the show with Rick. Here's the bottom line with his numbers. After finishing last year with the Super Bowl winner on the Chiefs, which was even a higher rate of play than his national championship winner on Michigan, $10 bettors last year, college and NFL, cleared. This is wins minus losses minus the big, cleared $12,775. And that's erroneous. I should also include his first 3 college football releases of this year and his 7 preseason picks, too. Again, $12,775 since the start of the 2022-23 season. And since his site debut 2.5 years ago, he is 30-13 going into this weekend with his all-in max wager football releases. That's college and pro combined. So there is your answer. Let's get to your next complimentary play. This is kind of an interesting game here. Uh, let's take a look at the game between Atlanta and Pittsburgh. It's the over the hill gang in terms of quarterbacks. You've got Kirk Cousins, who is 36, versus Russell Wilson, who is 35. I think even despite the Achilles injury that Kirk Cousins is coming back for, he certainly was the more efficient and better productive quarterback a year ago than Russell Wilson, who I don't know what he has left, but I know one thing. Going to the Steelers, a team that struggled offensively, certainly isn't going to make Russell Wilson any better. And I don't give a damn that Arthur Johnson, the former Falcons head coach, is now the Steelers offensive coordinator, because I think that as long as Mike Tomlin's the coach, he is always going to pull the strings and he's going to be ultra conservative. And I just don't think the Steelers have that much offensive talent. They don't have many playmakers. They couldn't run the ball last year. Why do I think they're going to be able to run the ball this year? Their offensive line, they're probably going to start two rookies, maybe have three new starters overall. Atlanta has some talent around Cousins, who I'm not thrilled with the fact that they protected him in the preseason and didn't play him at all. But at 36, he's been to this rodeo before, and I think that's not going to hurt him. You got Robinson in the backfield, who was underutilized and used in the wrong way so often by Arthur Smith, again, now the new offensive coordinator of the Steelers. You got Drake London, who over the past 2 years has combined for 141 catches. Kyle Pitts, I don't know if he's going to be there. He's kind of been a bust, really, when you think about it, when everybody expected him to be the next big thing coming out of Florida. But he's battling a hamstring injury. But I do like the defensive additions that the Falcons made, spending the big money, getting the two big, Justin Simmons and Matthew. Name escapes me, but the guy from the Patriots, you'll think of it if I can't. So I like the Falcons minus the 3.5 at home. And again, this is a situation between 3 and 4.5. I am obviously buying down the half point. The next game I want to talk about is going to be, this is a very interesting way, and it's a strategic play if you think about it. Cincinnati, right now, as I do this report, at 4:20 in the morning on Thursday, yeah, sitting in a Marriott hotel room because I have other things to do today. And my doctor wants to know, hey, how are you feeling? I go, hey, well, I don't know. I slept 3 hours last night. I handicapped the NFL card today, and I still haven't slept, and I'm doing a video report at 4:15 in the morning. I think I'm doing pretty damn good. Cincinnati is an 8-point favorite over New England. Nobody knows if Jamar Chase is going to play. He did show up at practice. We don't know if he's going to get his new contract, he's going to get an extension, if he's going to show up for the game. I think if he does happen to play, I think that he'll probably be on a snap count, because you don't want to risk injury for a guy who really didn't have a preseason or training camp. And I think if the announcement comes that he does play, this line goes from 8 to 9.5. Right now, Cincinnati priced at 8 against a team, the Patriots, who I think is going to be awful. I think it's a pretty fair price. Now, Joe Burrow, one drive in the preseason. Oh, he looked good on that one drive. But Joe Burrow has been in and out of the lineup so often the past couple of years with injuries. I'm not too worried about that guy missing the preseason. The Bengals revamped their ground game. They got rid of Joe Mixon, thank God. Zach Moss is going to be the starter, but Chase Brown is going to see a lot of action as well. Revamped their secondary too, brought in two new starters via free agency, and then they switched a cornerback over to safety. So they really did everything there. I look at the Patriots. They have a weak pass rush. They have a weak offensive line. Could have maybe one or two starters out as well on that offensive line. Mayo wants to run the ball. Alex Van Pelt has a run-oriented scheme that he wants to implement with the Patriots. And let's face it, it's not a bad idea, and especially in this game, because the Bengals couldn't stop the run last year, giving up 4.7 yards per carry, and they lost their best run stopper, DJ Rader, to free agency. But I just think Cincinnati minus 8 at home, with or without Chase, I think the Bengals win this one by 13, 14 points, because I think the Patriots are going to suck this year. Can't be any more brutal than that. And then your final selection, interesting game. Let's talk about Miami and Jacksonville. So Miami is a 3.5 point favorite at home, right? Both of these teams started fast this year and then faded. Jacksonville certainly more so than Miami, but both of them have a hell of a lot of talent. And I think a lot of people would look at Miami and go, "Hey, this is a team that's 10-4 against the spread as a home chalk under Mike McDaniel." And you look at Jacksonville, a team that just collapsed at the end last year. But they went and brought in a lot of veterans to really, I think, steady the ship. They rebuilt their secondary with three new starters. And you've got the number one NFL passing attack for the Dolphins that's going to face that revamped secondary here. You've got a Jacksonville pass rush that is extremely strong. Allen had 17 and a half sacks last year. Walker had 10 sacks. Miami's offensive line only allowed 33 sacks a year ago. But I think the difference perhaps in this particular game is who's going to rush Trevor Lawrence for Miami. Bradley Chubb is out. Jalen Phillips is going to play, but he is going to probably be on a limited number of snaps because he's coming back from an injury. So I think the potential is there for Jacksonville to move the ball. I actually like Jacksonville to win this game outright. I think it could be a high scoring game, somewhere like 28-27, 31-30. I think this is one of those games where when you look at the first week where it's going to be low scoring across the board, this is not one of them. So again, and before I recap everything, let me just remind you very quickly. You see the thing at the bottom of the page. If you've never bought a play at the site before, if you've never taken advantage of the All Access Pass, you can get all the plays of all the handicappers, including my best bet for today, for free using the 2-day free All Access Pass. It doesn't cost you a thing. You get all the plays, no strings attached. Check it out. Just click on the button, 2-day free All Access Pass, and you pick the days. Again, running them in order. I think that Detroit, hands down, -3.5, buying down the half point, is the best play among all of these. Number 2 would be Atlanta, again, buying down the half point with the Falcons. Number 3, and again, if I had to tier these plays, Lions here, right? Well beneath them is going to be the Falcons. Well beneath that is going to be Cincinnati. And I told you the strategic way to play the Bengals here -8. And if you're going to play them, you play them early rather than late, because I think that line does escalate if Chase goes ahead and signs. And then at the bottom, again, I'm taking a look and giving a shot and a shout out. I think Jacksonville wins that game outright. They are a 3.5 point dog. And in that dog situation, when you have an underdog of 2.5 to 4, I'm always buying up the half point for those that believe in what I'm preaching. That'll do it, guys. I wish you well. And we will talk to you again next week when we've got a little more college football. Good luck, everybody.